answer questions in the chat and you can read them. Love it. Okay. So we can kind of move this to the chat if you guys are up for that. Basically what we are trying to do tonight and throughout this month is bring you guys stories from our neighbors that live in Greendale and Hales Corners and our surrounding communities about recovery and talk about the Recovery Month, the National Recovery Month theme this year, which is really fantastic. It's recovery is for everyone, every person, every family, and every community, which when we saw it, we were just so inspired by it. And so one of the questions we wanted to ask our guests tonight, and if really anybody wants to answer it in the chat, I mean, no, I'd be more than happy to see that happen as well. What is to just share some advice for that you would have for other people in recovery when it comes to navigating social events, especially with football and the holiday season quickly approaching. How can people in recovery still have fun and safely kind of navigate all these social opportunities that we have coming up in the fall and football and going into the holidays? So let's see. And just as a reminder, I did post, as we're kind of waiting for some comments, we did post the Recovery Month website in the comment chain if you scroll all the way to the top, so you can check out all the great Recovery Month resources that are out there. And let's see, from Kris, so when going out to get-togethers, to have a buddy and an exit plan. So, buddy system, we all remember it from oh, here, Laurie. There we go. Laurie's coming on. Let's see if we can get her while she's potentially hopefully joining. From Kris, she said when going out to get-togethers to have a buddy and an exit plan, which we all remember the buddy system from kindergarten. We're all familiar with it, and it's such a simple solution to have a buddy with you that you trust, that kind of knows your situation and knows how to navigate these social situations with you, and kind of understanding what the event's going to entail and having an exit plan out there to help you out and make sure that you have a safe way to get home and all that fun stuff. So you have, and Kris said, so you have somebody with you that doesn't drink so that you don't feel alone, which is also really great, really important to have. And then, being able to drive yourself. So if things get stressful or if you feel unsafe, you can leave when you need to and not depend on anybody else to get you home, especially if there is alcohol involved or other substances. Of course, like, you can depend on yourself to be the DD designated driver if you need to, which is so important. And then the other question we had was if you had any tips for hosts. How can we make social gatherings more inclusive for the recovery community? I think that inclusion and equity is such an important topic right now, and a lot of people are talking about it. Since we also can, the recovery community as making it inclusive for them as well. Hi.
Hi.
We got you. This is great.
There was a little icon I had to click on to ask to join.
Okay. Well, we found it. I'm so glad.
Yay.
And let's see here. Okay, so I'm so glad you're here. I'm multitasking, kind of chatting with some IT help here. So to pick up on question number 2, which I know we've talked about a little bit before, tips for hosts, how can we make social gatherings, more inclusive for the recovery community or people in recovery?
That's such a nice question. As I'm, pretty new in recovery, I'm 21-ish months. And, going to holidays is new for me. And I think it's going to be new for everyone right now. With last year was mostly COVID, and we weren't getting together. But to just, generally parties, from what I remember, and there's probably a different perspective if you're not an alcoholic, but that it would be, the bar's over there, and if you ask for soda, that's also up at the bar, or coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at an event recently, my NFL football draft, that I got the bar menu and I passed. I was expecting that, but then I wanted coffee, and I would have had to go up to the bar to get it, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I asked a friend to go. So if it could be physically located somewhere else, water, soda, coffee over here, and then, add in, open bar, beer, wine, whatever's over there, instead of just kind of an afterthought. If people want alcohol, they'll wait for it. It's just kind of a thought for that.
Mm-hmm. I love that's a really good suggestion. I'm just plugging in my phone before we really mess this thing up.
Get out of the sun.
Okay. And, as, Kris kind of mentioned in the comments, in relation to question number 1, but why is it so important when you're at social gatherings and stuff for being somebody in recovery to have a way out? What does that mean for you guys?
Oh, I just think it's so important, and I can only speak from new experience, but watching Kris, it's also, it's a really good habit. The temptation is to just fall in, or there's a social convention that you fall into old habits or old behaviors. And for me, I take everything slowly. So I don't say yes right away to going somewhere. In the past, I would have, because if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you're any of these stressed, it's just so easy to fall into unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, my sponsor tells me, give yourself permission to change your mind at the last minute. Go separate from the group of people. Go with someone in the program if you can. Depending on how stressful it is or unknown, plan to text someone when you get there and when you're planning to leave. It's just all these things I'm really protective over my sobriety, and it's really helpful to have that touchstone. I'm not afraid of going out. I'm just protective, and I'm cautious about it. So being able to have that connection out in the real world is really helpful, to not fall in, to not give into the last minute feeling sorry for myself, or who knows what it is. I don't know all situations, but I do know I want to feel safe from. So it's really important to not try to fit in. You're trying to straddle a couple of worlds in recovery, especially if you're new. Go to concerts, sure, but people who aren't alcoholics don't think drinking is a huge deal. It's just, I won't drink. It doesn't work that way for me. So it's just nice to have somebody who feel the same way I do.
Absolutely. And I think too, especially in Wisconsin and Milwaukee, beer capital of the world, to hear somebody say oh, I don't drink is kind of like, wait, what? So, I think that's another thing that as hosts and as people that aren't as familiar with the recovery process, to just kind of be like, oh, okay, well, what can I get you? What are you, yep. Can I get you something, water, soda, something else? And just let it be and not make it a thing.
Right.
And so what would you say to somebody who has a loved one that struggles with substance abuse disorder? Because we know that it's not, in the suburbs, we're certainly not immune to it. We certainly have a lot of friends and neighbors that either themselves are struggling with substance abuse disorder, or they have a loved one. I mean, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. I don't think anybody is completely insulated from that experience. So, I mean, any thoughts of wisdom you have on that?
That's a scary question for me because I was on the other side of it for so long. And I did have someone very close to me that was on pain meds that he had an opiate addiction, but he had to be on the pain meds. And there was a period of time where he was struggling with it. And I don't believe he was misusing it. It's just our bodies react different than others. Um, and I struggled with that question, what to do about it. And I prayed a lot. We, my sobriety comes first. Anybody in recovery, I believe, needs to come first. Praying for the other person, being there, thinking about how I would handle it. What we wound up doing was I got to my sponsor and his sponsor, and we were going to take a meeting to his house. So, you know, program is what I do. I don't know how I would approach talking about it specifically. It's such a personal thing, sponsor might. I loved him very much, and I don't know that I would have done that. I would have taken a meeting all day. So I don't know what advice someone else would give to that. Um, I don't want to push someone underground. I don't have a great answer, but bringing a meeting to them.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you did kind of answer it because, talking about your sobriety comes first. And I think for a lot of people, that's not something that they're used to prioritizing. And so it's like, don't try to do anything but maintain your sobriety. Like, just let that be your goal for the next hour, for the next day, for whatever time period seems manageable. And I think that's simple. And I think that's something that I would imagine a lot of people might connect with. So I think that's wonderful. And that's wonderful that you guys were able to make a house call.
He wound up to a meeting. So, but we were serious. So, and I was so grateful that other people were like, you bet.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Just awesome. This program works.
Yeah. And what's if you want to share, how do you stay sober? What's your process?
So I start every morning grateful because my first thought is that I remember yesterday, and that didn't happen when I was drinking at all. So I'm grateful. I start with my gratitudes and a meditation that I share with a couple of women, and ask God to help me stay sober today. And at night, I thank him for helping me stay sober. I ask to helpful. I've gone through some pretty challenging things. First thing, I remember what people say, don't drink. I can only make whatever situation worse. Do the very next thing that I can do when I start getting stressed. I walk every day as a meditation. It's just signifies I'm just putting one foot in front of the other, and there's a continuity. There's just a calmness in that. I walk the same path on good days, on bad days, on rainy days, when I'm afraid, and there's just comfort in that, knowing that it's just something that goes on every single day.
It's very grounding.
It's really grounding. I stay grounded. I take breaths, breathe in and out to calm myself and say, it's okay. I think about things that what people have told me. If it's real bad, I'll contact my sponsor, but I really look to the program, say one of the prayers, try to be helpful. Just um, just try to stay very grounded and
Yeah.
calm, because I'll get anxious. Um, so those are the type of things. Just get out of my own head, help someone else, try to help someone else, contact someone. Those are the things that I do.
And I think that's unfortunately something that's been really challenging, I think, for a lot of people during COVID is getting out of your head and you know, keeping up, being connected with other people, and especially right now when maybe socializing in person isn't as feasible. Um, you know, even just texting or video chatting, things like that, and walking. I mean, it's safe to walk. We can all, you know, socially distance outside. Um, and it's such a universal stress reliever, and I love hearing about you using it as a like a moving meditation.
Yep.
That is awesome. Do you listen to music,
I listen to
podcasts?
music. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I generally listen to music, but sometimes I don't. I also write, and I'll tell Kris that something's bothering me. She'll ask me to write it. And
Mm-hmm.
writing's really therapeutic because you think slower when you write. You actually have to think of the words that you're forming. And a lot of times the solution comes in there. Um, so writing is another one. I stay pretty busy in the program. So I usually have someone to talk to. Um, I, so yeah, there's stressors that go on, and I talk a lot more than I did before about things. Um, I think I move slower. I think slower than I did. I don't run from one thing to another at all. And I take time. So I'm moving at a different speed right now than I did before. It was funny because before, while I was still using, somebody said that they spend an hour in the morning meditating. And I thought, holy cow, if I had an extra hour, I would not use it to meditate. And I find out now I couldn't function without taking that hour. And I get so much more done because I'm not stressed. My mind is clear. But I start
You're
my
doing
day
that,
out.
yeah. You're doing that work up front. You're setting the tone, which makes the rest of the day so much more uplifting and productive. And, you know, you spend the rest of your day in such a great headspace that, you know, an hour seems like a really small sacrifice of
Yeah,
time to have an
yeah.
entire day like that.
It,
So
so,
our final question um, for tonight's stream is, what is your favorite thing about being in recovery?
oh my gosh, I've got plenty. The I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I'm not afraid of going places. I'm not afraid of what I did before. I'm not afraid to get up in the morning. I don't have that despair at all. Um, no afraid to look at my phone wondering what I may have said yesterday. Um, I am I'm not afraid of losing my job. I've learned in recovery that when I start with the what if and fear, I find a way to be okay in any possible scenario. So I don't get caught up in what if this happens? What if I lose my job? What if, right now, for me, the worst thing in my personal life to date has happened. Person that I love just didn't wake up. And
Mm.
that's the worst possible thing that I can think of happening. And yet, I was on my morning meditation. Every life is good, and that still happened. And I'm still here. And when I thought, what am I going to do? I thought, well, I'm not going to drink. That's the first thing I thought. Um, so I'm not afraid. And even sometimes if I am worried about something, Kris will say, do it afraid. I can
Yes.
go any
Yes.
and belong. I can go into any meeting and belong. People are me, they get me. And that is
Yes.
beautiful.
I love that. I think I just saw a quote somewhere on social media about like, even if you do it poorly, do it. Like, even if you can do it 10% effort, still do it. 10% is still better than zero. And going into any situation, even if you are afraid, like, just still do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Do it afraid. You can be afraid
Yep.
and still do it.
Yep.
That doesn't have to be the limiting factor.
Yep. We say that's okay
Yes.
a lot. It's okay.
And Ashley just commented, feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yes.
I think that needs to be like the banner.
Yes.
The big takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
it's okay.
it's okay. I love
It's
it.
okay.
I think that's going to be the quote of the century here. Okay, well, Laurie, thank you so much for your time tonight and being willing to jump in. We were going to have you on, I think, on the 23rd, so in 2 weeks. So we'll just swap you and, or no, we were going to have you on next week. So we'll just swap you and Kris. We'll figure out all the ins and outs of Facebook Live for next week.
Sure.
And thank you so much for your flexibility and for sharing your story and spending some time with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Oh, and Ashley just commented that that quote is her screensaver. I love it. We need to make everyone's screensaver.
Yeah.
Ashley, maybe you can share a picture in the comments for inspiration for people to make that their screensaver. I love it. All right. Well, thank you everyone who's tuned in. We will share this video it'll be on Facebook, and then we'll also have it on our YouTube channel, and I'll put a link on our page to that as well in case you have anybody who wants to watch it on there. Sorry, I was just looking at the comments. And yeah, thank you again, Laurie, and everyone have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for what you do. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks. Bye.